Motherhood can be lonely, but at least it's better when I was raised. Working moms like myself have it tough, and our social lives are often at the bottom of our to-do lists. So how can we make this situation a little better and minimize the loneliness in our motherhood? And it really goes beyond responding late to text. That's merely the tip of the iceberg. So does a good conversation lead to friendship? When I was 7, this is a memory I had. I remember when I was 7, I went to Zellers with my mom to buy some new sandals. I remember the music was playing as we sauntered into the store. I remember I always really enjoyed those short trips with my mom because, you know, it was away from my sisters and I craved that undivided attention that my mom could give me. I mean, think about Zellers, right? Like, if you're Canadian, do you remember Zellers? I had so many childhood memories there, like the things, just the experience of shopping at Zellers. Anyway, so we get to the shoe section, and my mom gives me a choice between these kind of kiddish looking ones with like their plastic, that had like a pink elastic at the back with like plastic daisies. Or I could choose these medium brown colored Mexican huaraches. Like they're kind of sandals made with like, you know, that wicker material. And so I decided to go with the kiddish looking pair. They looked fun. I was 7, right? And so as we're heading towards the cashier, my mom tells me she wants to see if any of the bedding sets, like the comforters and bed sheets and stuff, were on sale. And so I was like, sure, I don't complain. This just extends our mother-daughter trip. I get to be away from my sisters. And so we get to the aisle and there's another Asian lady standing there, and she had the same idea as my mom, looking at some bedding sets. We're just waiting for her to finish looking at that area, and she kind of walks to the side and we start looking, and then the lady asks my mom in Cantonese, and she's like, "Dang daya," right? Which means, is this a good deal? And so they start to converse about like bedding sets, the material, the price, the quality of the fabric, what other stores they've been to that had other bedding sets that they look at, and then of course who they're buying it for, right? How many kids they have, which schools they went to, what neighborhoods they lived in, and they just kind of they were chatting for a good 5 minutes with several nods, a couple of oohs and ahs, and a couple chuckles and giggles. And this is like the early 90s, right? And I grew up in an area that was predominantly Caucasian. And my mom, who's English, she's not very confident in her English skills. And my husband always says that she's actually probably a lot better in English than you think she is. She just doesn't want to use it or something like that, pretends to be dumber than what she is. It's rare, very rare for me to see my mom strike up a conversation with a stranger. And so it was just, I was like, whoa, cool. And they exchange a couple more pleasantries. And then, I see the lady write something down on a piece of paper and hands it to my mom. And my mom takes it, smiles, thank you, and puts it in her jean pocket. And then they're about to leave, kind of they wave each other, they go their separate ways, and we go pay for my shoes. Just my shoes. I guess the bedding set wasn't that great of a deal. And so we get home, and I asked my mom, what did the lady write on that piece of paper? What information did she give you? And she's like, oh, she just wrote the name of the store that sells better quality and cheaper bedding sets. So I was like, oh, I thought it was her phone number. I mean, they were getting along, they were chatting, there was giggling going on. Why not exchange numbers? Because that's what I would have done. As a kid, I remember when you'd have camps and stuff like that, where you meet people outside your school and then you kind of hit it off. You'd just exchange numbers, because then you can call each other on your home phones back when you're kids and you didn't have your there was no cell phones when I was growing up. And you would just call each other and just talk for eons on the phone. And that's how you kind of maintain those friendships that were outside of the school. And so that's how I thought my mom would do. But they didn't. So I'm like, why didn't you exchange numbers, Mom? And then she says, I'm not interested in making any friends. I've got no time. I got my work, and I've got you 3 little monkeys to care about. And then I was like, oh. And she's like, all I really wanted to know was what store she was talking about. And I was like, but you don't want friends? Grown-up ones? And she gives me like a weak smile and just shakes her head. And so in the moment, I remember like almost feeling sorry for my mom, and that, you know, she didn't really have any people her age to talk to except maybe my dad and some of the coworkers at her job. But outside of that, like she had, like I felt she was kind of lonely. And so I was like, at that moment, I was like 7 years old. I'm like, you know what? When I have kids and when I become a mom, I'm not gonna be like that. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna want friends, I'm gonna need friends, I'm gonna have lots of friends. And if I was her, I would totally ask that lady's number and would have given her a call and went for like, you know, go for like get my nails done or whatever, right? And I would have totally allowed that budding connection to develop into a friendship. That was like literally a few minutes of my brain thinking about this, and I shrugged it off, went off to show my sandals to my older sisters, and you know, the next thing I remember was thinking, oh damn it, I should have gotten the Mexican huaraches instead of these kiddish looking ones, because that's what my sisters would have liked because they were more stylish at the time. Anyway, so this is a memory that I didn't really think about until I became a mom, and really not even as a new mom, but like later into when I started really thinking about what kind of mom I wanted to be. So like when I had my daughter over 4 years ago, a lot of these kind of memories start to resurface, and it's like the only kind of references you have really at the tip of your brain, or your tip of your brain, are the ones of your own mom. Like that's the only relevant reference that you can think of. And so I started thinking about my mom. And so even as a new mom, like right like at that moment, I was like, I'm gonna vow to be different than my mom. I'm gonna like totally take the thoughts I had as a 7-year-old at Zellers and really put them into action. I'm not gonna be like her. This is one of the changes I wanna make, you know, for the next generation. Tables have turned, it's my turn. I'm not gonna be a friendless person, friendless woman, uninterested in making social connections, you know, and just focused on my kids. That's kind of like when I first became a mom, that's what like this kind of like a small little mission of mine. But of course things change, and in my next video I'm going to talk to you about how the kind of up and downs of me trying to get into this, to increase my social life as a mom, and kind of just the complexities of how this loneliness you feel is kind of like, it's kind of inevitable. It's a tough situation, but it's also a lot of learning to accept and coming to terms with the situation as is. So stay tuned. Let me know your thoughts. Any memories of your own mother? Like I would love to know your stories of when you were growing up. Like did your mom have lots of friends come over? You guys were she constantly had people around, or I mean, it's kind of with immigrant parents, right? Like if your mom didn't speak English very well, you know, and you went to a store with her and she kind of like struck up a conversation with a stranger, like did that usually end like them becoming friends, or was it kind of like similar to my situation where the moms would just kind of chat for that brief moment in time and then kind of go their separate ways? So let me know in the comments. Stay tuned for the next part where I dive kind of deep into what I've tried and some of the complexities around this loneliness of motherhood.